Hey, we're
We're
live.
live.
We are
We are
live.
here. We are live. What is up, everybody? Thank you for being here. You are tuned into the non-corporate network. My name is Chaz Motter,
Dustin Trout.
and you are watching Fill in the Blank. If you're wondering what the heck am I watching right now, this is an ESPN style show where we come at you with the heaviest hitting small business news headlines of the week, 3 days a week. We have 6 stories for you today. Me and Dustin are going to spend about 3 minutes debating each one of these stories, talking about implications on small business and what the future holds. So I am excited to get into it. Dustin, do you have anything you want to add before we jump into our first story?
No, I think let's just start bringing the news and get our debate on.
Let's bring it, baby. If you're watching this, you better be an entrepreneur. You better have a side hustle. We want to support you. And if you have any questions as we go through this, drop them in the comments. And if you have any topics you want us to discuss next time, happy to do it. So reach out to us with those ideas. But without further ado, looking at our first story, CNBC reported that there is an influx of small businesses applying for the triple P loans. 2.2 million triple P loans were accepted for $175 billion this past week. The week before, they'd only accepted about a million of those, but it was for $475 billion. So the loan amounts are coming down, average of about $79,000 per loan this last week. And it comes at a good time. They've been surveying small business owners for the last 3 months. And as of last week, small business owners as a whole, almost 40% of small business owners said they cannot last another month without opening their stores back up and getting back to normal business. So obviously a big deal. Obviously, we talked about the triple P. It's very topical right now. Dustin, what are your thoughts on the sentiment of small businesses as a whole in the United States? And how do you think that the loans are progressing?
Yeah, I think everyone's getting restless. I mean, on the data side of things, I mean, it all makes sense. If people have been polled the last 3 months, and 3 months ago they're saying, yeah, I can make it 3 months. We're now at that 3 month mark, and maybe they can't make it another month. I mean, it's cool that we're getting the stimulus. It'd be interesting to see what companies get it, as long as they're not the huge businesses. But I think it comes at a good time. I mean, here in Arizona, obviously the state is opening back up. But I mean, seeing the restlessness, I mean, there are business owners that are speaking out. I mean, restaurant owners that are speaking out. I mean, just saying, hey, let's get back on track. I mean, it comes down to you either open back up or you're closed forever, and have to figure it out. And so, I mean, I think the loans are good to get us through. I personally kind of hope that this is the last round and the economy kind of kicks back up on its own. And that'll be it. 'Cause, I mean, we can only go into debt so much before we default and further implications happen. But I mean, based off of the data, I think the loans are great. As it's a nice little jolt as we head back into a growing economy again. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's interesting too. Less than 50% of businesses in the hospitality sector and in the food sector have applied for these loans, and less than 30% of businesses and small businesses as a whole have applied for these loans. I mean, we think about 2.2 million loans have been approved. That's a lot. That's really not even scratching the
No.
surface of small businesses as a whole in the United States, and so. I think that it's interesting to see that people are hesitant to apply for these loans, especially in these industries that have really been hit hard. And I think like the small business loans in just government grants as a whole is like applying for a college scholarship. So many different options out there, and so I think people are just so hesitant because they're got this information overload. So I urge you guys, if you're small business, do your research, look and see if you qualify for something, and just go ahead and apply. First Arizona is a great place to look, or I think it's Arizona Local. They've got a lot of resources, so check them out. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot out there. The supply is not necessarily diminished. I mean, they've got we got like $1 trillion to spend here, So if you need it, then apply for it.
Yeah, and there's someone that we know that actually helps with it. So I mean, we can drop the link to his Facebook or whatever. You can shoot him a message. But I mean, part of it might be just it's a daunting process, or it might seem daunting, and so it just might need some hand holding. So I mean, we could drop a link to allow you to reach out to someone that'll help you through it. So.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Moving on to our next story, a company called Zello, not to be confused with Zelle or Zoom or any of these other, or Zillow, but Zello has come out with a walkie-talkie technology to facilitate remote team communication. I think this is interesting. I don't know if that's going to benefit all organizations. But I think that in terms of just facilitating communication where we can't be in the office walking over to your desk to ask a question, this could be an opportunity for us to, just have more fluid conversations and replicate that office experience a little bit more. But what are your thoughts on this walkie-talkie for businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's annoying. It's to your point, having people in the office, you can walk up to your desk and talk about it. But I mean, how many running jokes are there like, oh, this is Bob's fourth time coming to interrupt my day? On top of that, we have Slack, we have Zoom, Google Hangouts. I mean, we have a plethora of different tools to help communication.
Right.
Why add in another one? And I mean, someone's gonna just continually bug you. Hey, here's a cool new joke or whatever it may be, so you mute the notifications and then miss important stuff. So I think it could lead to more unproductive activities. I mean, I see where they're going. It's awesome, just the simple voice side of it. I don't think there's anything like it, but I think there's a growing trend of people just saying we have too many tools at this point. So I think I don't know. It's up to the businesses, but I think you're just going to get more interruptions than productivity, and so I am against it.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this and I think that most businesses now are looking for interoperability, if that's a word, but they want to integrate everything. And if they can't integrate their channels they're already using, whether it be Slack, whether it be Zoom, whether it be their CRM, if they can't integrate those channels with a new tool, then it becomes more cumbersome than it does increase the productivity. And so I think that it's a very interesting product and definitely has some differentiation. But, obviously here, big problem is that is the scalability of it, and B, the ability to create succinct communication that is integrated into the other marketing systems that you may have already. So I think those are definitely threats to them growing their business. But I mean, all power to them. I think there's definitely use cases for it out there. I don't know if you remember the Sprint walkie-talkie thing. I know
Apple Watches have the walkie-talkie feature. I mean, quite a few people
Yeah.
have Apple Watches, but yeah, I wanted one of those Sprint phones just for that.
Yeah, it seems to be more like what is it called? The construction and things like that. It seemed like it made more sense than maybe for professional businesses. But
yeah, I mean,
I digress.
Slack allows you to throw in a voice memo. So I mean, if you're really one voice that bad, why add another tool? Just record your voice and throw it in a Slack message.
Yeah, agreed. Moving into our next story, 57% of employees would prefer to work from home in the future. This is a Matova study that came out surveying a couple thousand small business owners. I think this is interesting that more than half of the workforce has, obviously like almost all the workforce has been exposed to this remote work. But more than half of the people that were exposed to remote work went, now that I've gotten a taste of this, I'd rather do it this way. And so I'm interested to hear your thoughts in terms of, did you expect this large amount of the workforce to want to be going remote as opposed to being in the office?
I'm actually surprised it's not a little bit larger. I mean, I'd be interested to see what the numbers were before this, but I mean, we've worked in marketing where we're remote, and we've been using these communication tools for a while, but I mean, I've had jobs where I go in and I'm like, I literally talk to no one all day. Why can't I just work from home? This is not sustainable to drive across the valley and all that type of stuff. But I think it's awesome. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the commercial real estate industry does and how that shifts. So, I mean, there's a good almost 40% of the workforce that still wants to work in the office. So I think there's going to be a huge uptick in co-working spots where businesses go from 1,000 different offices down to a couple throughout the city, and then allow those people who want to come in maybe once or twice a week to have the space to come in. So they're reducing their overall overhead while still appeasing that 40% that still wants to come in. And so I think there's just going to be more efficiency in the overall balance sheet. And so it'll be interesting to see what people do with the savings from the commercial rent and how they deploy that money.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the trend was to start repurposing these like shopping malls where people were not really wanting to go in and buy stuff at the store. They've repurposed a lot of those into co-working spaces and office spaces. I know out in Scottsdale, they've transformed a lot of different real estate that was for retail into, even like the headquarters of Indeed and other companies. And so I think that this trend is going to continue to bleed into like professional business settings and office space because everyone is this mass exodus is going to do what already happened in retail where people were like, I'll just rather go and shop on Amazon than drive to the mall and go to the store. It's going to be cheaper and it's more convenient to me. And it gets there in a day anyway. It's not really a difference. And so I think that we're starting to have that same kind of mindset when it comes to going to the office. And, I'm just weary of like, when do we stop? Like, I don't want to live my whole life in my house. So it's like, at what point is it going to be this turnaround where it starts to be, oh, I want to get back out into society. I want to be around other people. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I know this coronavirus spike has caused us to really, start thinking that way.
Well, even though you're not working in the office, you can work from coffee shops, little restaurants. So it'll be interesting to see how brick and mortar locations kind of innovate to allow people to come in and work there. I mean, it could create a whole new industry or a new revenue source for brick and mortar. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. I hear you. Do you want to run mid-roll real quick, and then
Cool.
We'll get into our last three?
Yeah, so Advantage. I mean, we've been talking about them quite a bit in the last couple episodes. They're our first sponsors, so they take a little piece of our heart. But, I mean, as we've been talking, there's extra time in people's lives, extra time within businesses, unfilled capacity. And so they've created a platform where you can basically trade your time with other businesses. So example I keep using, we're a marketing agency. If we need accounting help and there's an accountant that needs marketing help, we could trade our services. No one's trading any financials or monetary value, but just taking our extra time if we have a couple extra hours in the week or the month, whatever it may be. And so if you have a little extra time and needing help with your business, definitely check out Advantage. I mean, Chaz?
Yeah, and people are already doing it. I mean, as an entrepreneur, like we always are networking and meeting new people and offering trades and services under the table anyway. So why not attach a currency to that where you can have a bigger network of people to work with? So I love their idea. And thank you guys for your support of us. And we're looking forward to, continuing to speak highly of you. Do you want to get into our next story now?
Yep, let's make it happen. So Q1 numbers came out from publishers. Overall CPM, so the cost to reach 1,000 people, has gone down about 27% on the advertising side. What's interesting is social has only gone down. So Facebook ads, Instagram ads have only gone down about 7%. So people have kind of maintained their budgets there a bit. But one really interesting fact is that connected TV is 42% more efficient. So the cost there has gone down about 42%. So people are consuming more TV at their house. I mean, cord cutters are watching more. So, I mean, this is connected TV is that Sling TV, Amazon, Hulu, all that type of stuff. And you can programmatically throw your ads in front of them. And so before this, I mean, we were running some ads and looking at $40 to reach 1,000 people on TV. I mean, with that reduction, you're looking at about $25 now. And so it's literally the same cost as Facebook ads. So, I mean, you could hyper-target, you could retarget your website visitors and serve them TV ads. And it's the same cost as throwing out a Facebook ad. I mean, now more than ever, I think, is a time to invest. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, for those of you out there that are kind of wondering, like, why is this such a big deal? The big thing to notice here is that when you talk about TV advertising, you're paying a lump sum for X amount of spots on any given network, any given show. And so you don't know how many viewers are going to be watching. All you know is that, okay, ESPN has this type of demographic and this type of person watches ESPN, so I'm going to put my ad in front of them. What we're kind of talking about here with programmatic connected TV is that you now have the ability to not have to pay a lump sum to reach that entire audience. You can pay a smaller CPM, $25, and reach specific people that not only are qualified based off the show that they're watching, but also other demographics, geographics, psychographics about them. And you're able to retain them into your audience and remarket to them further. And so if you're paying for an advertisement on ESPN, you can't go and talk to those people again. You don't even know who you don't even know who you put your ad in front of. All you know is there was 8,000 viewers at 8 a.m. on Cox ESPN when I ran my TV spot. And so this makes it so much more granular, so much better attribution. And I'm very bullish on how this is going to continue to revolutionize the game. I think TV and radio are antiquated industries, just like these telecom companies with cable are becoming antiquated compared to Netflix and Hulu and these other providers. Amazon, we talked about how they're offering all like live sports and things now. So we're eliminating the points of difference from what TV can do compared to what your connected TV can do. And I think the same goes for the advertising.
Yeah, no, huge on the connected TV. I mean, that going back to the first part, those companies that have a bit more than a few months worth of operating capital, now might be the time to start investing there, which kind of leads us into our next spot. So Clorox, they have pulled $50 million from their traditional TV dollars. So traditional TV, like what Chaz, you were just talking about, blanket messaging on ESPN, but they're moving that $50 million over to digital. And this comes after last year, 2019, they increased their overall digital spend by 29%. So, I mean, it's getting more efficient to reach people. These huge brands are starting to step in. I recently read an article that Heinz is doing the same thing. It was somewhere around 20 to 25 million. They're increasing their digital spend this year. So, I mean, these big brands, they're not dumb. They're seeing the efficiencies and how cheap it is to reach people and how much attention is on the digital space. I mean, you have a lot more attention on Facebook and watching Hulu and all that on-demand stuff rather than traditional TV or radio. And so, I mean, what do you think? Is it a good move that Clorox is kind of switching gears and going more digital, or what do you think?
Clorox, shame on you for not doing this sooner. I mean, seriously, if you like your 50 million you just put into this effort now, you would have gotten that same return off of 15 million if you had this effort going at the beginning of the year. This isn't something new for businesses. This isn't something new. We've seen the exodus over to Facebook. We've seen these small and medium-sized businesses that are already doing this. And the big qualm that these big companies have is, oh, we have too much bureaucracy. We have to move slower. We have too many people to go through. Making decisions it takes 6 months to a year, if not more, for them to make a decision. Shame on you guys for not looking at this sooner, because obviously I'm sure their profits have skyrocketed during this time. But imagine if they were able to retain that audience and be able to remarket to those people and be able to personalize the messaging to specific people compared to just blanketing an advertisement or an email campaign across millions of people. I think that it's just an opportunity missed. It's like we knew about Bitcoin when it was worth $100 or $300, and now it's worth $10,000. And now we're going to jump in at 10 grand. And it's like, what could you have done over the last year if you would have committed this sooner?
Yeah, no, I mean, to your point, some of the length of time it takes for some of these big businesses to make decisions, it's insane. I mean, I've been saying it for a year or two. I mean, I remember right when all this happened, I was telling my dad, and it's just like, all it's going to take is a gut punch financially for big brands to finally make the decision to move digitally, because it's just more cost effective, it's efficient, it's more targeted. Mm-hmm. You can see what's actually making revenue compared to TV, where it's just kind of, you don't know what the ROI is there. And so, yeah. I mean, Can't
I
urge
think
it
it's such
enough. If you're a
funny
small
thing.
business, you got to jump in now because the cost
Yeah.
to reach people is only going to go up.
No, I think it's a funny paradigm. Like you're deciding that in order to cut your expenses, you're going to reduce marketing costs by going after another channel that is probably going to do better for you. And in the long run, you're going to make more money off of that decision to cut costs. It's like, yeah, you know, it's a perfect oxymoron, but it's hilarious.
Yep, and then going more into the digital side and personalization. I mean, there's a couple articles that just say audio is the future, personalized audio. And so going back to comparing traditional to digital now, it's like you used to have one message that you'd have going over a local radio station, and it reaches everyone, whether they're in market or want your product or service or not. So, I mean, you have a lot of wasted dollars reaching people that'll never buy from you. And so right now there's a huge ability to again, going back to using your CRM data, knowing when people are purchasing, targeting based off of 10,000 different data segments. I mean, there's so much hyper targeting that you can do that now you can create personalized creative that speaks to who you're trying to reach. And I think there's, I mean, just the cost of producing that creative is so cheap. And so, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think personalized audio is the future, or is it more the social side, connected TV, or just what are your thoughts on that overall statement?
Yeah, I mean, in this marketing story, it talks about how there's 4% of advertising is remembered positively, 7% is remembered negatively, and 89% isn't remembered at all. And so, how can you cut through the noise when we're in this instant gratification society, this quick moving, multitasking society? How can you cut through the noise and stand out? I think that if Samuel L. Jackson is saying, hey, Chaz, you need to buy this product, it's on sale right now, like, I'm going to remember that. And so I think that, you know, what Siri is doing, what Amazon and Alexa are doing, what Google Home is doing, I think these are all really great ways to further personalize the messaging and use other targeting targeting data to bake into how personalized they can get something. But my big reservation here is that we've already had this huge, like, Mark Zuckerberg got sent to Congress and indicted over this whole data privacy thing with the swaying of the elections and just sharing data about your interests on Facebook. Having a transcript of every conversation that I have is much more risque to me than knowing that I'm interested in basketball on Facebook. So I think that, you know, before we start getting too bullish and pouring money into this, especially from a business standpoint, we need to be a little bit more responsible in terms of coming up with policies that are going to allow us to not make the same mistakes that we just made with Facebook and these other data privacy issues. I think that it's a huge risk that we're running, especially with Apple and Google and Facebook and all these companies making hardware and being at the forefront. Like, we need to take a step back and make some rules before we just go all steam ahead on this.
Yeah, I mean, that's up to lawmakers, that's up to the publishers to figure out those rules. In the meantime, I think it's there at your fingertips. I mean, why not use it now and get some of that brand penetration? I mean, going back to a vast majority of people don't remember the advertisements because it's not personalized. You don't remember people that aren't speaking to you. And so if you can make it more personalized, I think there'll be a huge uptick in those people that remember on a positive note. And so I'm all for it. I mean, we're putting the pedal to the metal there. So maybe we can do a recap on what that looks like and see what lawmakers do.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. But, you know, I think these are all growing trends. And hopefully small business owners, entrepreneurs out there, hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you heard about something today that maybe you hadn't heard about before. So we really appreciate you guys listening, and hopefully you're getting some value out of our conversation. And if you have ideas of stories that you'd like for us to discuss, if you have questions that you'd like to ask us, then we'd be happy to answer those. Please send them in. You can check us out at Fill in the Blank on Facebook, the Non-Corporate Network. We will be publishing all of these as podcasts, so we'll start to do a little bit more marketing on this front. But for our day one supporters, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Avantage, for your support of what we got going on here. And you know, get out there, get hustling, find opportunities. John D. Rockefeller made all his money during their recession. So, do you have anything you want to add, Dustin?
No, I mean, we'll be finishing up the website, Facebook group, and start posting all the full episodes and the clips. So much more that you can kind of look back on and stuff like that. So excited to get that going. Should be end of week or early next week. So rock and roll.
Hey, win some arguments with your friends using the statistics that we cite in here, man. You know, that's what we want. But again, you're watching the Non-Corporate Network. This is Fill in the Blank. We'll be back on Friday about 8:30. But again, my name's Chaz Motter.
Dustin Trout.
Thank you guys for being with us. We truly appreciate you. Yeah, that's all she wrote.
Yeah, that's all she wrote. See you Friday, guys.
Peace.